Has God ever rebuked you for worshiping fear, more than worshiping God? I hope not. Because it is awful when we are confronted with such an issue. But I know it's true, I was worshiping fear more than I was worshiping God. In 2009, I was really dealing with numbness. From here down, I was dealing with numbness. I didn't know what was happening, and it was scary. I really didn't know what to expect, but I did have to go to the hospital for a few days as the doctors were determining what was going on with me. It was determined that I had MS. So they gave me a steroid treatment, and that really seemed to take care of most things. And for many years, I was in remission. So it wasn't until 2019 that I really started dealing with major MS complications. Nonetheless, in 2009 and 2010, I was really dealing with a lot of fear. I didn't want to be afraid. I would pray, of course, and ask the Lord to help me. But even when my symptoms were minor, even when I was feeling well, when I was able to walk fast, when I was able to go to the gym and really exercise, even in those times, I still had a lot of fear. And I used to think, well, I need to do this or that with my kids because maybe next year this time I won't be able to do this anymore. If there was some heat, I knew that people with MS, heat is difficult. And so I would think, okay, I can't go outside. I can't do a lot of stuff when it's really hot because that would be bad for me. Day by day, my main thought was, what do I need to do to avoid problems? I was constantly thinking what I can and can't do. Usually I was thinking about what I can't do. Oh, I can't do that because I have MS. Oh, I can't do that because that might cause me problems. I can't eat that food because it will cause me problems. I can't do this. I can't do that. I was really worried about entrance and pre-existing conditions. What will happen to me if my MS gets bad? Does that mean I have to always stay in my current job? It wasn't that I didn't mind being at my current job, but it was just this thought of, is this it? Is this the end of adventures? Is this the end of really being able to serve overseas? Am I always going to have to be in this city with this job, with this entrance until I'm no longer breathing? I had fear. Also at that time, I was a hospice chaplain, and I had patients whom I would serve who had end-stage MS. It was really scary to see these people who could barely swallow, who could not stand, they were limited to an electric wheelchair because even using their arms wasn't strong enough. And so I knew that since I was diagnosed with MS, maybe this will be me in the future. And so I was very concerned. But on June 26, 2010, is actually a very difficult day. That day, I went to a funeral that morning. Also, a patient of ours, really a good friend of mine, she died with end-stage MS that day. And that afternoon, I went to a family reunion, and I was worn out. I was fatigued, and I was really grieving, and I was struggling. I knew that night we had a church conference. So that night I knew that it would be understandable if I explained that I was just so worn out. I was so fatigued. I was so tired. I needed to take a break. But I guess I was too afraid of letting people down, too afraid of offending someone. But this time, I'm glad I forced myself to go. One thing that really stood out to me was he talked about living in fear, and through this time, God confronted me with the fact that I was worshiping fear more than God. This is really awful. Here I was a chaplain, I was a pastor. In my life, that was my focus, that was my hope. I wanted to love the Lord my God with all my heart, with all my soul, with everything. And yet here I was living in fear. In the thought of worshiping fear more than I was worshiping God. What an alarming thought. And part of that fear that had really ensnared me, I knew that the Lord had called us to serve overseas. And in fact, my wife and I, we lived in Asia for a few years, 2001 to 2003. But by the time of 2009, I thought, well, God, you know I can't do that. Lord, you know I can't go to Asia. We can't move there. But again, on June 26, 2010, I was confronted with the fact that I was living in fear, and that my whole reason for resisting God's call in my life to serve in ways that He was asking me to serve was because of fear and my thinking that I can't do that. And God knows I can't do that. Even though there are places, say in Exodus, when Moses said he couldn't do such things as speaking because he stuttered, and God's response to him was, you know, who gives you the ability to speak? But Moses was living in fear, and I was living in fear. And I knew it, and I saw it, and so my chest was so tight because I knew I was afraid. I knew that God was asking me to serve Him, and I told the congregation, those gathered, that I asked them, please forgive me. Since I've been living in fear, that means I have not been serving as the pastor that you need. Because if I'm living by fear and not by faith, that's a big problem. And that means that I have also really fallen short in my ministry. I have fallen short As a pastor, I have fallen short as a chaplain, because living by fear instead of faith means that we're not doing as the Lord has asked us to do. We know, as Hebrews 11:6 says, without faith it is impossible to please God. I was worshiping fear more than worshiping God, and even at that time I really didn't know what that meant, because I don't like fear. I never wanted to be afraid. So how could I possibly be worshiping something I didn't like? I began to understand that worshiping fear means I was thinking about fear all the time. I was living my life with fear in the forefront instead of Jesus. I was making decisions based on fear. What I did or didn't do was often based on fear. Even though, again, I was a minister, even though it was my ambition to live a life fully sold out for Jesus. And yet, I was more committed to my fear. I had to begin to understand that worship involves what we do with the majority of our days, the majority of our thoughts, what we talk about the most, or what consumes us. And even though I didn't want to, I was worshiping fear. And so that night, then, before God and man, I confessed my fear, confessed my lack of faith. And thankfully, the Lord restored me. The Lord cleansed me. The Lord gave me a peace that passes understanding. He really recharged me, and so much weight was lifted from me. These days, many years later, I actually have several of the things that I was afraid was going to happen actually have happened. My MS has gotten much worse, as I've shared in previous videos about how I was so broken by 2019, by 2020, and now in 2021. Physically speaking, I am broken. However, I have so much more peace than I did in 2009, 2010, when everything was going easier. I was able to drive, I was able to run, I was able to do so much. And yet, I have so much more peace today than I did some 10, 11 years ago. Well, I know the Lord has me in His hands. The Lord lifts me up. The Lord empowers me. And there are many things that I don't like. I don't like the fact that my body struggles often. I don't like the fact that it's not currently possible for me to drive. And I really pray and hope that I will be able to drive again. But nonetheless, although I'm not able to do these things right now, I know I can trust the Lord. I know the Lord loves me, and I know the Lord, when He is calling me to go out, even by wheelchair, that He will always be with me. Thank you, Lord, that you give us the strength to serve. Thank you, Lord, that this day was created by you.